So you've been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, your doctor handed you a prescription for medication and a referral for therapy, and maybe you've even tried all those things, read the self-help books, tried the mindfulness techniques, attending the therapy, and maybe you've even started the medication, and yet that anxiety just won't go away. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how we overcome anxiety without years of therapy or even medication. Now, if you're new to me, my name is Diante. I'm a clinical psychologist and also the author of The Gift of Anxiety. And I've been helping clients with anxiety for over a decade. And what we've come to find in this practice might just blow your mind, because overcoming anxiety is 100% within your control, and you don't necessarily need years of therapy or additional medication. But let's just backtrack 1 minute, because in order for us to understand how to overcome anxiety, we actually need to understand what it is first and foremost. Number one, it is not a disorder. And I have a video that explains exactly what it is. Feel free to go and watch that. It's got all the details. Anxiety is just a signal in your body. It's an alarm system. It's really basic. It doesn't have any rational thought, but it is designed to keep you safe. Watch that video. It's going to tell you everything about what anxiety is and what it is not. The second piece we need to understand is that when anxiety becomes so debilitating that it's interrupting your life, that is when it has become well and truly stuck. Most people are going to call this an anxiety disorder. Generalized anxiety disorders, health anxiety disorders, social anxiety disorder, panic disorder, you name it, they're all a form of stuck anxiety. And again, if you want to understand how that anxiety gets stuck on itself, I have a video that you can watch on that as well. And it will show you the complete picture of how you get stuck in an anxiety loop, which means that anxiety keeps coming back. Now, I know that it feels really frustrating. In a nutshell, what happens with anxiety is that we feel the experience of it, and then we become afraid of it. So we're doing something that is then generating more anxiety. We're feeling anxious about being anxious. And when we're in that stuck loop, it's as if anxiety cannot shift. Now, I want you to imagine that you're sad instead of anxious. One day something happens, it leaves you feeling really sad, and you allow yourself to feel that. You maybe cry, you have a chat with somebody, and there is a part of you that completely accepts that this is sad and you have a right to feel that way. And after some time, you'll notice that that sadness will come down. However, if there was a day where you felt this and you didn't feel like you should feel sad, or you felt like your sadness was ruining the day for other people, then you might become sad about being sad. And that's where we say things to ourselves like, I'm ruining the day. I'm a dampener on everybody's experience. Nobody wants to hang out with me when I'm feeling this way. And then we begin to feel depressed. Now, we do the same with our anxiety. When we have a surge of anxiety, if we could just allow that to be there, if we could just give ourselves permission to feel anxious in that moment, that emotional response would subside just the same as any one of your other emotional responses do. However, we don't do that. We become afraid of the experience that we're having. Maybe you're scared of the symptoms. Maybe you're scared of what anxiety is going to do to you, that you won't be able to function or think straight. And so we become anxious about being anxious. And that anxiety loops in on itself and causes what many would call the anxiety disorder. So of course, if our response to anxiety is the thing that's keeping it stuck, then it makes perfect sense that we need to change our response. And this is what this video is all about today. Now, before we can understand how to change our response to anxiety, we first need to understand how are we responding to anxiety. Now, in the decade of work that I've done with my clients, I've discovered that there are three main response types that keep anxiety stuck: anxious fixation, nervous control, and shameful submission. Now, there is a fourth response type that will actually help anxiety to subside naturally, and that is empowered acceptance. Now, let's just run through each one of those response types because it will help you to identify where you might be sitting with this. So let's start with anxious fixation. As the name suggests, these are people who have become really fixated on the experience of anxiety. For whatever reason, maybe the symptoms feel really uncomfortable and scary. Maybe they have beliefs about anxiety being shameful or embarrassing. Maybe they're afraid that the anxiety will affect their functioning, that they'll pass out, that they'll go crazy, that they'll lose their minds. And so as a result, they're always checking to see how anxious they're feeling. How's that symptom? How's your chest? How's your breathing? How's your head feeling? Every time that we check to see how anxious we're feeling, we're going to see anxiety and what we pay attention to becomes the source of our experience. So if I'm looking outside and I can see a beautiful day, or I can see children laughing, then that becomes the source of my experience. However, if I look outside and I can see it's a rainy, gloomy day, then that becomes the source of my experience. Every time that we pay attention to something, that's the source of what we're experiencing. So if we are paying attention to our anxiety all day, every day, checking the symptoms, checking to see if we're feeling better or how anxious are we today, the first thing we do when we wake up is ask ourselves, how anxious am I? Then of course, our experience throughout the entire day is going to be anxiety. So anxious fixation is the response type where we're trying to understand the anxiety, but in so doing, we're always focusing on it, fixating on it, obsessing on it, and it is generating more anxiety. Nervous control is slightly different. These are my clients who usually want to get on top of their anxiety. They understand where it's coming from to some extent, but what they know is that if they do enough things to be healthy, they'll be able to control it. So now they reach for those strategies, the mindfulness, the exercise, the breathing. They go for acupuncture. They try eating healthy. They go and see a therapist, maybe a kinesiologist. They have a massage. They read about somebody who did craniosacral therapy and they gave that a go. Every night they're doing legs up on the wall and all the nervous system regulation strategies. And oh my goodness, are you feeling as exhausted as I am with that list of things to do? What they're doing is keeping themselves in a state of anxiously looking for the next strategy to help themselves feel better and get on top of that anxiety. So the control that they're trying to exert on the anxiety is creating a nervous energy that keeps that nervous system in sympathetic activation and slightly anxious. Nobody can relax or feel calm when they have that many things going on for themselves. No matter how healthy those behaviors are, if we've got that nervous sense that we need to get on top of this, we're going to generate more anxiety about anxiety. The third response type is shameful submission. This one is slightly different. Most of my clients who sit in this space have actually come from somewhat challenging backgrounds, something that has felt quite big in their childhood or as they were growing up. And as a result, when the anxiety comes, they very easily slip into that space of feeling negative about themselves. They begin to submit to some of the anxious thoughts that they have, that they're not good enough, that they're not acceptable, that people don't want to hear them moaning about their anxiety anymore, that people are feeling tired of them always looking for reassurance. And so they slowly begin to shamefully withdraw from their family and their friends and keeping themselves at home and isolating. And so shamefully submitting to some of the horrible experiences of anxiety. Now, when we're doing that, isolation and feeling not good enough or not acceptable are 100% going to generate more anxiety. So the more we submit to the anxious thoughts and feelings, the more anxious we begin to feel. Can you see how each one of those response types are generating more anxiety about the anxious experiences that you're having? The fourth response type is where all the magic happens. This is what I call empowered acceptance. When we can respond to our anxiety with empowered acceptance, we are basically understanding where that anxiety is coming from, what is the root cause of it, and we can have compassion for why we're feeling anxious. We understand what anxiety is doing in the body, how it's creating the symptoms that it's creating, what this sympathetic activation means, so we are not afraid of the things that are happening in our experience. And as a result, we can accept and allow that anxious experience to be there, just like you were able to allow that sadness to be there and then allowed it to naturally subside. When we can give ourselves permission to feel anxiety, we no longer feel anxious about being anxious. So those are the four main response types. When you can shift your response type from either anxious fixation, nervous control, or shameful submission back to empowered acceptance, which, by the way, is the response type that you have towards the majority of your other emotional responses. When you feel angry or grief, or when you feel frustrated or irritable, or when you feel sad, 99% of the time, you understand why you feel that way. You feel like you give yourself permission to feel that, and you allow that feeling to be there, which means that it always subsides. So when you can move your response to anxiety to empowered acceptance, that's when the anxiety about anxiety ends. That, my friends, is how we overcome anxiety without needing years of therapy or medications. Now, the very first step is for you to identify exactly which response type you are sitting in. I have developed a quiz that I use with my clients to help them do just that, and I've linked it below so that you can use it too and identify your response type. Once you've understood that, then there is a 4-step method that we use to help move you to empowered acceptance, and that is my 4-step EASE method. EASE. E stands for empower, which is basically, as I said, understanding your anxiety, where it's coming from, the root cause, and everything that it's doing in your body. The A is for allow or accept. This is where we learn how to allow the anxiety without fighting it, without resisting it, without feeling more afraid of it. The S stands for shift because, of course, we need to shift your focus off of the anxiety. The more you see it, the more you feel it, and the more you generate of it. So shifting your focus means that you get to be more engaged with the other things in your life that feel important to you. Your kids, your partner, doing fun things, your career. And the last E stands for engage. Because this, once we've done all the first 3, is where you get to engage back in your life again. Because I'm pretty sure there are some things that you have started avoiding because you don't want to feel anxious when you're doing them. We want to get you back out there and living your life and feeling yourself again. So the 4-step EASE method is how we bring you from any one of those response types back into empowered acceptance. And I'll link that below for you as well so you can have a look at what that means. And I've detailed the whole 4-step method inside the book, The Gift of Anxiety. Link below if you'd like to give that a read. Okay, my friends, if this has felt helpful for you, please be sure to take the quiz, find out where you stand, and let's do the journey of changing your response to anxiety so that you can feel yourself again. And be sure to hit subscribe because if you're enjoying this video, I have many more coming. Each week, I release a video that is designed to shift your understanding of anxiety, take back control, and feel yourself again.